Oh, thanks very much, Tim, and it's great to provide an introduction to our company today. So EcoGraf is building a vertically integrated battery anode materials business, and that's all centered on our unique EcoGraf graphite purification process. This is a process that we developed through extensive test work, both here in Australia and also in Germany, and that enables us to produce HF-free, high quality, cost competitive battery anode material products for the lithium-ion battery market. So our three key businesses as part of EcoGraf are the battery products business, where here in Western Australia, we're planning to commence construction later this year of our first battery anode materials purification facility. Related to that is the recycling business, where we've successfully applied our unique EcoGraf purification process to purify and recover carbon anode materials from both lithium battery production waste and also end-of-life battery anode materials. And the third element of our business is the natural flake graphite business, where in Tanzania we have a development-ready, long-life, high-quality natural flake graphite mining operation, whereby we're currently finalising financing arrangements and intend to commence construction hopefully later this year. Next slide, please. Our board and executive management has a blend of technical and commercial expertise and deep experience in developing and operating mining and mineral processing operations in Australia and internationally. We have a very global strategy, so we have a head office here in Perth. Our first purification facility is planned for the Kwinana-Rockingham Strategic Industrial Zone just south of us here in Perth. In Germany, we have an office and a pilot plant facility where we undertake all our testing programs with battery producers and electric vehicle manufacturers. And in Tanzania, we have a portfolio of natural flake graphite projects. Our market capitalisation is just over 300 million. We have a range of shareholders, so we have a listing both on the Australian Stock Exchange and the Frankfurt Exchange. And through the Frankfurt Exchange, we've attracted quite a range of European investors. So JP Morgan Nominees now holds just almost 22% of our company, and that in turn is a holding for the European investors who are participating on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. First Sentier, Tim and the team have been wonderful supporters over the last few years of our business. They hold a substantial interest of 8.6%. And we've recently completed a major fundraising whereby we've attracted the support of Allianz Global Investors and Paradise Investment as substantial shareholders. And that raising in turn fully funds us for the construction of our facility here in Western Australia. Next slide, please. So there's a compelling lithium-ion battery market opportunity for us. So graphite is basically the material that is used to construct the anode in a lithium-ion battery. And by mass, graphite represents about 50% of the battery material. All of the battery material is currently produced in China, and it uses a hydrofluoric acid in its purification process. So we have an opportunity here to using our unique purification processes to establish the world's first battery graphite purification facility outside of China and to provide a cost competitive alternative supply to the existing Chinese production. So all of that demand for lithium-ion batteries is being driven by the global transition to electric energy and to e-transportation mechanisms. And we're seeing the massive take-up of electric vehicles that is planned. So that in turn is forecast to drive a growth of some 700% over the next 4 years in the requirement for natural graphite and purified graphite for lithium-ion batteries. Next slide, please. So in Europe, you can see an unprecedented level of new investment whereby they're establishing an entire lithium battery market from scratch, a battery market that the EU Commission forecasts is going to be worth something like 250 billion euros a year by 2025. So almost on a weekly basis, there are new announcements around battery capacity planned for the European region, and we have a major foothold in that region. And these plans that you're seeing around the capacity being established in Europe really underpins our strategy to focus on Europe and North Asia. And we already have an established long-term relationship through the major German industrial trading group ThyssenKrupp through which we're undertaking a range of testing programs with battery manufacturers and electric vehicle OEMs in the European market. Next slide, please. So Europe in turn is also a leader in promoting sustainability in their battery mineral supply chain. So just recently they've announced a number of major changes to the regulations around the battery supply chains, and there are 4 key elements to that. There's responsible sourcing, carbon footprint technology and labelling through the supply chain. There's traceability using blockchain technology, and there's the requirement for increased recycling in terms of the ultimate goal of trying to establish closed-loop battery ecosystems. Next slide, please. So this all underpins the establishment of our first facility here in Western Australia. So we're planning to commence construction later this year. That will take around 11 months, and through that we'll deliver 5,000 tonnes per annum of high purity battery graphite for lithium-ion batteries. After a short commissioning period of 3 to 6 months, we'll then proceed to expand that facility to 20,000 tonnes per annum. And all of this is based on the EcoGraf HF-free purification process. We've undertaken extensive feasibility and engineering works with GR Engineering, and we're in the process of finalising construction and operation arrangements with that company as well. So all of this has occurred over the last 4 years, whereby we've initially identified the process through work here with GR Engineering and CSIRO in Australia. And then we took the purification process into Germany and optimised and refined that through the expertise of Graphite and others in the European market. We also successfully applied our purification process to a range of natural graphite feedstocks, and that led us to signing arrangements with Technographic for the supply of our feedstock material for this West Australian facility. In turn, we've signed long-term offtake arrangements with ThyssenKrupp in Germany for the sales of our products produced here in Western Australia. And that has brought in the significant support from the Australian government, where we're in the final stages of negotiating a $35 million debt facility, which will underwrite the expansion of the plant here in Western Australia. As you can see there, it's quite a modest capital cost, initially 23 million US, and then an expansion of 45 million to take us to 20,000 tonnes per annum and highly attractive economic returns. Next slide, please. So this gives you a bit of an overview as to how the facility here in Western Australia will look. And if you have an opportunity, you can go to our website. We have a number of videos there that go into the facility in far more detail. But in essence, it's a very modular approach to the design. It uses existing equipment in a unique way for our purification process, and it's readily scalable as we expand from 5,000 to 20,000 tonnes per annum. We've also received extensive support from both federal and state governments. We had the State Premier Mark McGowan open our land facility down in Kwinana, where we secured 6.7 hectares for our production site. And more recently, we've received major project status from the federal government in recognition of EcoGraf's contribution to helping establish Australia as a central battery minerals processing hub for the global black battery industry. And also we're thinking about the longer term as well. So we've also commenced planning on site selections for a second facility in Europe. There are a couple of countries where we're in close conversations with parties around identifying suitable industrial sites, and we'll have more to say about that in coming months. Next slide, please. So the second pillar of our business is the battery recycling business, and the market to date has focused on the recycling of the cathode part of a lithium battery. And what we've been able to do is work with a number of battery manufacturers and electric vehicle manufacturers to test their anode materials that are produced either through production scrap, which is wastage that's produced as a result of manufacturing a lithium battery, or through what's referred to as black mass, which is really the carbon anode material that's produced after the hydrometallurgical processes have recovered the cathode metals. And what we found through that process of applying our purification to those materials was really an outstanding set of results. So in terms of our production scrap, we can recover that to beyond 99.95% carbon purity, which in turn is the required threshold for using that material back into the production of a lithium battery. And similarly on the black mass material, which initially starts as a much lower carbon content, we're also able to purify that successfully up to 99.8% purity, which in turn opens up high purity graphite markets. So this all provides us with a great opportunity to pursue a recycling business as part of our graphite production and purification. And in turn, we'll look to support our battery manufacturer and electric vehicle customers through lowering their carbon emissions footprint, given that the battery consists of 40% of the carbon footprint of the manufacturing arrangements of an electric vehicle, and also reducing their production costs, which is a key objective. And next slide, please. So we're uniquely positioned now to recover and reuse this carbon anode material, and the results that we have put out into the market and the conversations that we've had have led to very strong interest amongst players in the battery sector. And in turn, we've signed our first agreement with Korea's largest lithium battery recycling group, Sungil High-Tech. And that in turn is leading us to commence engineering design works for the construction of a modular pilot plant to be able to commercialize and to optimize this purification process specifically for treating recycled battery material, either production scrap or end-of-life battery black mass material. And our ultimate objective through this process is to be able to combine our natural spherical graphite on a purified basis from a facility such as that here in Western Australia with our recovered carbon anode material from the recycling arms of our business in order to provide a uniquely blended product for battery and car manufacturers. Next slide, please. So the third pillar to our business is the natural graphite business. And there we have a portfolio including the development-ready Apunko graphite mine. So we've spent something like $20 million US completing a bankable feasibility study over the last 5 years. We've had that study independently reviewed by SRK Consulting on behalf of KfW IPEX Bank, which is Germany's state-owned government development bank and one of the largest development financiers in the world. And in turn, we've had a granted mining license. We've completed obviously our studies and engineering works, our pre-construction arrangements, and importantly, the work that SRK undertook confirmed that our bankable feasibility study satisfied the Equator Principles development model. Importantly, the IFC performance standards and the World Bank Group standards as they relate to environmental health and safety guidelines. And those are critical aspects in terms of securing European sales and financing support. Our plan is to initially start at 60,000 tonnes per annum production, and we've already been planning a low-cost expansion to that facility in order to meet growing market demand. We've entered into sales arrangements on a long-term basis with ThyssenKrupp in Germany and Sojitz Corporation in Japan for offtake from that operation, and its capital cost is just under 90 million, of which we're in the advanced stages of negotiating a 60 million debt facility with KfW at the moment. And you can see the economic returns there as well. Next slide, please. So Apunko is a key part of our ESG supply chain assurance for customers. Tanzania is ideally located from a transport perspective in terms of supplying product into Europe. And we've been getting extensive government support from both Australia and Germany to help support not only Australian export and establishment of a battery minerals processing capability, but also the industrialisation plans in Tanzania, where this project alone will operate for 40 to 50 years and in that time contribute something like $3 billion to the Tanzanian economy. So we have developed a $60 million debt financing proposal in conjunction with KfW. We have presented that to the Tanzanian government and more recently had a number of conversations with the government and received very positive response from the Tanzanian government-owned TIB Development Bank, which is the development banking arm of the Tanzanian government. That response was just received and provides the pathway for us now to proceed to work with the government of Tanzania, KfW as well, in order to finalise the debt financing arrangements, which would pave the way for the construction of this new mining operation in Tanzania. Next slide, please. So we have a very global strategy. Currently, all of the battery graphite is produced in China, and what we're presenting is a unique alternative to that supply, where we see battery manufacturers and electric vehicle manufacturers looking to diversify supply and to increase the sustainability of that supply. So we think the initial purification facility here in Western Australia is ideally positioned in terms of receiving feedstock from East Africa, processing that material, and then exporting finished products into the existing battery market of North Asia. And in time, we see the establishment of our second facility in Europe as that battery market is established. And in the medium term, we're also undertaking activities to establish a third facility in North America as that battery market grows as well. Next slide, please. So the value proposition is compelling for EcoGraf. We are uniquely positioned to provide an alternative to the existing supply of battery graphite materials in a high growth lithium battery market. There are three key components to our business: the EcoGraf graphite manufacturing facility that we have planned for construction here in Western Australia, the TANZ graphite operation in Tanzania, where we're finalising the debt financing arrangements, and the recycling operations, where we look to value add to our graphite manufacturing capability. And all of that uniquely positions us for a long-term position as a significant and highly profitable supplier to this high growth sector. Thanks very much for your interest in our company, and back to you, Tim.
Thank you, Howard. We're out of time. We've got time for one quick question. What role does graphite play in, the Prime Minister has this critical minerals ranking. What role does graphite play in that?
Yeah, a very critical role actually, Tim. We've been working quite extensively with the Critical Minerals Facilitation Office, and it's no secret, obviously, that being granted major project facilitation status was a key part of the government's recognition that graphite is an important part of the battery. There is potential for graphite production within Australia. We are in discussion with some parties around potential supply of graphite feedstock from Australia. And obviously in our conversations, we're very open to working with parties in Australia to help promote Australia's position in the global lithium battery market.